9 o'clock. This is Harvey Cook. Boris Johnson has urged people in England to be responsible and enjoy summer safely as pubs, restaurants and hairdressers open for business again tomorrow. The Prime Minister described the easing of lockdown rules as the biggest step yet on the road to recovery. But he warned he would reimpose restrictions if cases of coronavirus rose sharply. Bournemouth and Dorset was swamped with visitors during the recent hot weather, but one of the town's MPs, Tobias Elwood, said there was no reason to be nervous.
I welcome everybody back to Bournemouth. We're going to be ready, and whether it's a pint or a haircut or a walk on the beach, we really are ready to open up in the way that clearly we weren't a week or so ago when nothing was open apart from the beaches and we were deluged.
People from England now go on holiday to more than 50 countries without having to spend 2 weeks in quarantine if they're returning after the 10th of July. Spain, France and Italy are all on the list of approved destinations, but Portugal and the United States are not. Scotland and Wales are yet to decide whether to ease travel restrictions. Chelsea Dickinson set up cheapholidayexpert.com.
There's a lot of interest right now, so those big deals that you're seeing are getting snapped up very quickly. We've seen a lot of buying last week just based on rumours. I think now that we've had the official update, it's definitely going to get ramped up. But ultimately, when people were polled this week, only 11% of people asked said that they were going to go on that summer holiday this summer. It will definitely still be possible to get yourself a good deal.
The deaths of a further 137 people with COVID-19 have been reported in the UK in the past 24 hours, taking the official total to 44,131. The TV historian Dr. David Starkey has been dropped by his publisher HarperCollins for making what the company called abhorrent comments on race during an interview. Dr. Starkey has also resigned from his honorary fellowship of a Cambridge University college. The Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro has watered down a law requiring the wearing of face coverings in public places to prevent the spread of the coronavirus. The far-right leader used his veto power to prevent mask wearing becoming compulsory in shops and churches. The Prime Minister has said that grassroots club cricket can resume next weekend. He previously said cricket balls could be a vector of disease. But this afternoon, Boris Johnson said safety guidelines will be published in the next few days. The former England captain Michael Vaughan says it's good news.
Finally, sense has prevailed. I mean, cricket is a sport played outdoors. Quite easily, you can socially distance. You can change the format, whether it be 6-a-side, 8-a-side. Lots of clubs around the country have obviously been struggling. Lots of kids are desperate to play the game. And, you know, when you see tennis being played, you see golf being played, a bit of basketball, and yet still no cricket, it was very frustrating.
And the weather, a humid night with showers for much of the UK, becoming drier and clearer in northern Scotland. That's the BBC News. It's 3 minutes past 9.
I know you're going to dig this.
Gary Davies on your radio. Gary Davies, sounds of the 80s, 88 to 91 FM, BBC Radio 2.
Good evening. How are you? You looking for 2 hours of the best 80s music? Run to me. This is Sounds of the 80s.
Found out about you and I. Oh, but her love was cold. Wouldn't hurt her if she didn't know. 'Cause when it gets too much
absolutely awesome song to kick the show off with tonight. Bryan Adams and Run to You, taken from the 1984 album Reckless, and that was the breakthrough UK hit for Bryan and the first of many, and also the first of many brilliant tracks you're gonna hear tonight. Coming up, we say happy 60th birthday to a man we have much more than a little respect for. He had top 10 hits as a member of 4 different groups in the 80s. We just had to give Vince Clarke his very own master mix. Not just that, the man himself has also taken the My 80s challenge and picked his favourite 4, followed by Simon Braddock in Stevenage. We go to New Zealand for my bit in the middle. We go Sleeping with the Past in the originals. The happy ending song is chosen by you. And who spins you right round, baby, right round like a record baby, right round, round, round. I'm getting dizzy. The sloppy bit is coming up too. And speaking of the sloppy bit, this next one's for anyone who's ever fallen in love. Fine Young Cannibals, Ever Fallen in Love from 1987. That was the third top 10 hit for Roland Gift and former Beat Boys Andy Cox and David Steele. Taken from the soundtrack of the Melanie Griffith film Something Wild. On This Week in 2009, the world was still in shock over the death of the king of pop, Michael Jackson. So much so that his albums and singles invaded the charts all over again, with the album number ones sat at number one, featuring his biggest hits, including this. Sounds of the 80s plays Michael Jackson and The Way You Make Me Feel, taken from his 1987 blockbuster album Bad. 11 tracks if you bought the compact disc, and 9 of them were singles. Part of the show where we take a wee break from the music and do a few hellos. Don't forget, if you'd like a mention on the show, you can email me anytime, gary.davies@bbc.co.uk, or you can get in touch with me via my socials, just using @DJ Gary Davies on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. Chris says, my dad Andrew is a big Sounds of the 80s fan. He listens on his way to and from work every day and has even got me listening as well. I was wondering if you'd give him a shout out during the show because it will make his day. Chris PF said, I loved the late 70s and all the 80s and met you twice on the road. Many concerts and Radio 1 roadshows. Just such happy days. So your show's been a lifesaver, and I'm sure not just for me, but for many others. This fantastic collection you expertly put together has absolutely given me that 2 hours of transporting back to such happy, carefree days and giggles. Thank you, and that's from Chris PF. John Pennick says, can I have a shout out for my wonderful wife, Liz of Broughton Astley in Leicestershire, who will reach the big 5-0 on Monday. She's a devoted wife, a great friend to me, and a fantastic mother to our 2 kids. Love her lots. Stephen Little says, can I have a shout out for my partner Simon's 40th birthday, which is this weekend. He listens to the show every week and it always marks the official start to the weekend. However, this week it marks the start of his birthday celebrations. If that's possible, it would make his birthday truly amazing. My name is Caitlin and I live in Thailand with my mum and little sister. We've just come out of lockdown and went back to school last week and we finished yesterday for our summer holiday. Say hi to my mum Fiona, little sister Lucy and anyone from GIS school in Thailand who might be listening. And that's from Caitlin Scott. And a shout out to my husband Kev Lloyd who has introduced me to your show. I guess that makes me a newbie, says Donna Lloyd. So we just played you Michael Jackson, who is without doubt one of the biggest selling artists in history, as are this next group. To date, ABBA have sold almost 400 million records. And they're about to sell even more because at the end of this month, they're releasing a box set of all their studio albums reissued on coloured vinyl. Amongst those albums is The Visitors from 1981, which included this. One of Us, their last top 10 hit. And after that, they struggled to climb the charts. Really hard to imagine now that there was a time when we all apparently fell out of love with ABBA. But then 10 years later, their revival began, and in no small part thanks to Erasure, whose EP of ABBA covers ABBA-esque was a #1 smash. And that leads me nicely on to this week's Master Mix, which is all things Vince Clarke, who turns 60 years old today. He had top 10 hits as a member of no less than 4 different groups. First with Depeche Mode, then as one half of Yazoo with Alison Moyet, then as a member of the Assembly with Feargal Sharkey, and finally as one half of Erasure. So let's give it up for the man with the most impressive CV in pop. Happy birthday, Vince.
Now, it's the Master Mix.
Looking from a window above, it's like a story of love. Can you hear me? Came back only yesterday. I'm moving farther away. Want you near me? All I needed was the love you gave. All I needed for another day. And all I ever knew, only you. Sometimes when I think of her name, when it's only a game, and I need you, listen to the words that you say, it's getting harder to stay. When I see you, all I needed was the love you gave. slip and slide as we fall in love, and I just can't seem to get enough. We walk together, we're walking down the street. I just can't get enough, I just can't get enough. Every time I think of you, I know we have to meet. I just can't get enough, I just can't get enough. It's getting hotter, it's a burning love, and I just can't seem to get enough. I can't believe you want to turn the page and move your life onto another stage. You can change the chapter, you can change the book, but the story remains the same if you take a look. For the time we've had, I don't want to be a page in your diary, babe. For the good, the bad, I don't want to see a page in your diary, babe. For the happy, the sad, I don't want to be another page in your diary. To your credit, to the 30 faces you created, to your headache, to the shape of the 1980s. I'm glad we don't hear you anymore. I'm tired of playing in your fashion war. Wow, wow, goodbye 70s. Wow, wow, goodbye 70s. Light switch, man switch, film was broken, only then. All the night, fuse tomorrow, dancing with a distant friend. Filming and screening, I picture the scene. Filming and dreaming of me. Now a good dance when the mood is right. You can do it by day, you can do it by night. It's so fun and you'll agree. You just do what comes naturally now, baby. See the side of love, baby. See the side of love, baby. See the side of love. There's plenty of ways we can do that thing. We can fool around till we get the swing. Do what you want, honey, we don't mind. But just make sure that you stay in time, baby. See the side of love, baby. See the side of love, baby. See the side of love, baby, baby.
Yeah, all Vince Clarke. I know, right? How good was that? Well done, JK. We kicked off with Yazoo and Only You. Then a bunch of Erasure songs, Sometimes, Victim of Love, a snippet of It Doesn't Have to Be, and the brilliant A Little Respect. Back to Yazoo with Situation, and Erasure again, Stop, and Drama. Well, a little bit. Yazoo, Don't Go, Just Can't Get Enough from Depeche Mode. Couple of Yazoos, Nobody's Diary and Goodbye 70s. Depeche Mode, Dreaming of Me. And we ended with Yazoo and The Other Side of Love. And I'm going to dedicate Yazoo and Only You for Helen Rogers, who's a wonderful wife, mum and soulmate. And she's been working hard as a nurse under the additional pressure still caused by COVID. And that's from John, Henry and Holly in Ulverston. Now, next week is going to be amazing as we head back 35 years to one of the landmark years of the 80s. A 1985 Master Mix as part of our Live Aid 35th anniversary special. I have more on that shortly. So exciting. Karen Eilbeck says, can I have a shout out, please? I'm a community staff nurse in Cumbria, and this week I've been on annual leave, chilling out with my husband Sean and the 2 pugs, ready to go back to work on Monday. John Leach from Green Mountain Berry says, say hello to the wife, Wendy, and our 3 beautiful daughters, Katie, Rosie, and Molly, as well as son-in-law Matt and future son-in-law Drew. Claire Lou says, will you say hello to my friend Bridget Og Hillary? She's an 80s music child, being born in the 70s. We live in Spain and we love the show. Denise Andrews said, just want to say how much I enjoy the show, and I listen every week with a chilled beer after a busy week. I listen with my boyfriend Michael and we just love the 80s. Oh, Gary, says Rhea Davis in Peterborough, who's 25. She said, our weeks during lockdown have been made by your Friday kickdown. Love the sounds, love the diversity. We love singing along to your intro tune, dancing in the kitchen with a couple of sherbets. Can you shout out to my amazing dad, Duncan, who literally lives for your show, and my beautiful mum, who can't get enough of your master mixes. I'm thankful they introduced me. I was born in the 90s, but definitely 80s at heart, and you smash it every week. Oh, isn't that nice? My sister Elaine turns 50 today. She's a huge Durrani. Our elder sister Colette is a Spandau fan. So there are a few battles between them back in the 80s. Anyway, she'll be so shocked to hear you mention her on the radio. Elaine, happy birthday. That's from Regina. So I mentioned it a little bit earlier. Vince Clarke had top 10 hits in 4 different bands in the 80s. Where was the assembly? I hear you cry. Don't worry, we would never leave them out. Never, never.
I know just what to say. It's just a game I play. Now I'm here on my own. I'd like to be with you. I guess you always knew. Still I'm all alone. I know the story, got it all worked out. It never happens to me. It never happens to me. That's the way my life was meant to be. It never happens to me. It never happens to me. Love's just a door that's locked and there's no key. It never happens to me. I know my every line. It's just a waste of time. Guess it's all such a shame. I've seen it all before, and every time I'm sure that it ends up the same. I know the story, got it all worked out. Never happens to me. It never happens to me. That's the way my life was meant to be. It never happens to me. It never happens to me. Love's just a door that's locked and there's no key. It never happens to me. I know just what to say. It's just a game I play. Now I'm here on my own. I'd like to be with you. I guess you always knew. Still I'm left all alone. I know the story, got it all worked out. It never happens to me. It never happens to me. That's the way my life was meant to be. It never happens to me. It never happens to me. Love's just a door that's locked and there's no key. It never happens to me. It never
Never Never, the one and only single for The Assembly, who were Vince Clarke and Eric Radcliffe, with guest vocalist Fergal Sharkey. The plan was to feature a different guest vocalist on each release, but they didn't actually get beyond single number 1. And now let's hear from Vince Clarke himself. He's been having hits with Erasure for 35 years now and still going strong. On August the 21st, they released a new album, The Neon, described as a collection of uplifting and optimistic synth pop, which we could all do with a little bit at the moment. Can't wait for that. And I can't wait for this, his favourite 4.
My 80s.
Hi Gary, this is Vince Clarke from the pop group Erasure, and this is my 80s. My first choice is Don't You Want Me Baby by the Human League, just because it's a great song. When I first heard this, I thought, well, synthesizers have definitely taken over the world.
Don't you want me, baby? Don't you want me? Oh, don't you want me, baby? Don't you want me? Oh.
My second choice is Homo Sapien by Pete Shelley. Just a great dance stonker, and I love the combination of acoustic guitar with sequenced synthesizers.
And you're Homo sapien too, and I'm Homo sapien like you, and we're Homo sapien too.
My third choice is a song called Underpass by John Fox, formerly of Ultravox. Just a fantastic sounding record, incredibly exciting and very inspirational for people like me who had just started messing about with synthesizers. My final choice and my ultimate 80s choice is the Eurythmics and their song Love Is a Stranger. Again, I thought that it was a groundbreaking song, groundbreaking production, beautiful voice, very mysterious. Yeah, one of my all-time faves. Well, that's it, Gary. I've got to go off and do some ironing. So, thanks and goodbye.
Eurythmics and Love is a Stranger, the all-time favourite 80s song of Vince Clarke. Thank you, Vince. Once again, happy birthday. And we wish Vince and Andy continued success with their forthcoming album, The Neon, which comes out next month. Our second My 80s star, Simon Braddock in Stevenage, is warming up. He's coming up later in the show. And next week, I'm so excited about this. Next week, Sir Bob Geldof will be in the My 80s hot seat as we celebrate 35 years since the biggest live music event of all time, Live Aid. We'll be featuring live performances from the event itself. We celebrate 1985 on the Master Mix, and we have Sir Bob himself in the My 80s hot seat. How cool is that going to be? Next Friday.
This is a journey into sound.
This week, in 1987, hip-hop pioneers Eric B. and Rakim released their debut album, Paid in Full. Here's the title track, as remixed by Clarke.
This is a journey into sound. A journey which along the way will bring to you new color, new dimension, new value.
When all is ready, I throw this switch.
Pump up the volume, pump up the volume.
Pump that bass.
You make me feel so good.
We interrupt this broadcast to bring you a special news bulletin from our on-the-spot passport.
Oh my gosh, the music just turns me on.
Thinking of a master plan.
Death with the record, death with the record.
Thinking of a master plan.
Death with the record, death with the record.
Thinking of a master plan. Cause ain't nothing but sweat inside my hands. So I dig into my pocket, all my money spent. So I get deeper, but still coming up with lint. So I start my mission, leave my residence. Thinking how could I get some dead presidents? I need money. I used to be a stick-up kid, so I think of all the devious things I did. I used to roll up, this is a hole up. Ain't nothing funny, stop smiling. We still don't nothing move but the money. But now I learn to earn cause I'm righteous. I feel great, so maybe I might just search for a 9 to 5. If I strive, then maybe I'll stay alive. So I walk up the street, whistling this, feeling out of place, cause man do I miss a pen and a paper, a stereo, a taper. Me and Eric being a nice big plate of fish, which is my favorite dish. But without no money, it's still a wish. Cause I don't like to dream about getting paid. So I dig into the books of the rhymes that I made. So now to test to see if I got pulled, hit the studio, cause I'm paid in full.
1, 2, 3,
By George, even London grooves.
Pump up the volume, pump up the volume.
Wait a minute, you better talk to my mother.
Yo, what happened to peace? Yo, what happened to peace? Peace.
Death with the record, death with the record.
The cold cut 7-inch of Eric B. and Rakim's Paid in Full, which of course samples Ofra Hazard. Good night, Kim.
Gary's Bit in the Middle.
Let's rewind to this date exactly 24 years ago when Crowded House had their first and only #1 album with Recurring Dream, The Very Best Of. Now listen, don't worry, it's not a decade breach because the album included their earliest hits from the 80s. This being their first top 40 hit here back in 1987. And what a song. Don't Dream It's Over.
There is freedom within, there is freedom without. Try to catch the deluge. There's a battle ahead, many battles are lost, but you never see the end of the road while you're traveling with me. Hey now, don't dream it's over. Hey now, when the world comes in, they come to build a wall between us. We know they won't win. Now I'm towing my car. There's a hole in the roof. My possessions are causing me suspicion, but there's no proof. In the paper today, tales of war and waste, but you turn right over to the TV page. Hey now, don't dream it's over. Hey now, when the world comes in, they come to build a wall between us. We know they won't win. Now I'm walking again to the beat of a drum, and I'm counting the steps to the door of your heart. Only shadows ahead, barely clearing the roof. Get to know the feeling of liberation and release. Hey now, don't dream it's over. Hey now, when the world comes in, they come to build a wall between us. No, they won't win. Don't let them win.
That song is just perfection. Crowded House and Don't Dream It's Over, my bit in the middle choice this week. And I tell you what, let's stay down under as we go from New Zealand to Australia. Kylie's debut album is 32 years old this week. It will become the biggest selling album of 1988 and featured no less than 4 top 2 singles, this being the second of them.
You keep on asking me, why can't we be together? I keep saying, won't you wait a while? What's all the hurry? I thought we had forever. I just need time till I can make up my mind. I'm not asking for a love to last forever. I don't expect to get a guarantee. It's just that I believe lovers should stick together. I'm only saying, won't you
Kylie Minogue and Got to Be Certain, number 2 in 1988 for Kylie. And let's stay in Australia. Well, the weather's nice. Actually, I'm not sure whether it is. It's their winter now. Australia's original pop queen, Olivia Newton-John, was at number 1 on This Week 40 years ago, together with ELO. The Electric Light Orchestra and Olivia Newton-John and Xanadu. Coming up in the next hour, My 80s with Simon Braddock, The Originals, The Sloppy Bit, and of course, You Choose Our Happy Ending. This is Radio 2 on the BBC Sounds app, on your smart speaker, and on 88 to 91 FM.
The news at 10 o'clock. This is Harvey Cook. The Portuguese government has described as senseless and unfair the decision by the UK to keep quarantine restrictions in place for travellers arriving from Portugal when they're lifted for dozens of other countries next Friday. People travelling from China, America, Brazil and Sweden will also have to stay in for 2 weeks when they get to the UK. But those from other popular holiday destinations like France, Spain and Italy will be exempt. Emma Bogan has had to cancel her trip.
I'm really disappointed not to be going to Portugal anymore. I was due to fly on Friday with a couple of friends to visit another friend who lives there. We go every year. And I've been tracking the news. Knew there was a spike in Lisbon last week, but thought, maybe there is still a chance that we'll be able to go.
The Prime Minister has urged people to maintain social distancing when a major easing of restrictions in England comes into force tomorrow. Pubs, restaurants, hairdressers and cinemas will be able to welcome customers once more, but Boris Johnson said he wouldn't hesitate to reimpose restrictions if infections rose again. Our political correspondent Leila Nathu heard what Mr Johnson had to say.
everybody owes it to those businesses to not act recklessly at this time in order to avoid a possible second spike of the disease and then risk going into another national lockdown. Now, that is not something that Boris Johnson said he wanted to do. That is very much a last resort, but the message was that there will be no hesitation in putting on the brakes should this reopening result in a spike in infections across the country.
Pubs and other hospitality venues reopened in Northern Ireland today. Businesses in Scotland will be able to open outdoor spaces such as beer gardens on Monday, with those in Wales following a week later. A woman's been jailed for life for plotting to explode a bomb at St Paul's Cathedral. Sophia Sheikh, who's 37 and from Hayes in West London, said she wanted to be the UK's first female suicide bomber, but was caught in an undercover police operation. 400 casual staff at the National Theatre have been told they'll no longer have jobs after the end of August. Actors, directors and producers have voiced their concern about the lack of clear guidance about when theatres can reopen. The actress and former soap star Julie Hesmondhalgh says the country's cultural heritage is at risk.
It's not just about people having a lovely night out in the West End. It's about the infrastructure of the creative industries in this country and about people's jobs that will go forever unless they step in now.
A number of supermarkets, including Waitrose, Morrison's and the Co-op, have removed some coconut water and oil from their shelves after it emerged that products were made with fruit picked by monkeys. The animal rights group People for Ethical Treatment of Animals has highlighted the treatment of monkeys snatched from the wild and trained to pick coconuts. And the weather, it'll be a cloudy night with some showers, which will be heaviest in western areas. It'll feel rather humid. BBC News, it's 3 minutes past 10.
He's got it. Gary, he's got it. He's my fire, my desire. Gary Davies. He's my fire, my desire. Gary Davies. Gary Davies, sounds of the 80s. 88 to
Welcome to the second of your 2 hours of 80s happiness. Phil Collins enters the studio from the number one album, No Jacket Required, released in 1985. Phil, one of the stars of the momentous Live Aid in 85. And thanks to Concorde, he managed to perform at both London's Wembley Stadium and the JFK Stadium in Philadelphia. And you may well hear one of his performances on next week's Live Aid anniversary special. Now, this next track came out at the end of 1987 from New Order. It's a great track, which you don't actually get to hear too often, which, as I always say, is where Sounds of the 80s comes to the rescue. This is the brilliant Touched by the Hand of God.
I couldn't look at you. I guess you knew it, but I never realized that we were through. And now I'm down and all alone with every feeling that I own. You can't take that away. And with every breath we take and the illusions we create will come to you someday. In this world, I wanted to, because everything I own, it belongs to you. I've never looked at you in a sexual way in my life before, and I've never woken up like this so desperately before.
What a brilliant song, New Order and Touched by the Hand of God. And apologies to you if the 1986 World Cup Hand of God goal is still a sore point.
Sounds of the 80s on BBC Radio 2.
And if football is your thing, then you're not going to want to miss this, because this weekend Radio 2 is marking 30 years of an iconic football tournament as we celebrate the music and memories of Italia 90. Yep, you can relive Gazza's tears, World in Motion, Chris Waddle's penalty, Nessun Dorma, along with some brilliant music from the likes of Madonna, The Farm, Roxette, the Lars Adamski and D-Light. It's Passion, Penalties and Pavarotti, Italia 90 at 30 with Gabby Logan tomorrow at 8 p.m. here on Radio 2 and afterwards on BBC Sounds. Time for some more shout-outs. Can you give a big one to my wife Cheryl, who I love very dearly but don't tell her enough. We listen every week in the kitchen whilst cooking and dancing away with a glass of wine. We're both approaching 50 and you make us feel young again. We've even managed to convert our youngest daughter, Paris, who's 17, to sounds of the 80s. Catch her on Top of the Pops 89. That's from Rob in Warrington. And Mike from Chelmsford said, my wife and I listen every week, enjoy the tunes. Can we have a shout out, please? And one to our very good friend Emma in Stoke, who we've just introduced to your show. Gary, can you send my love and birthday wishes to my wife Sue Turner in Wrexham? Her birthday is today and she's a regular listener. She particularly likes the master mixes. That's from Phil Turner. Another birthday, we love listening to Sounds of the 80s here in Sydney. Would you give a big birthday shout out to my good friend Joe Darcy, who never fails to bring laughter and fun times to his family and friends. It really make his day to hear a shout out from you and will put me in his top tier of friends. And that's from Giovanna Grayson. Sean Harbert says, can you wish my husband Nick a happy 20th wedding anniversary? For this Wednesday, we listen every week from Southampton with a glass of wine or two. Sandra Moffat is my gorgeous wife, and this will make her fall off the sofa as she gets a shout out. That's from Shrek, aka Stuart Moffat. And now for some news about Huey Lewis. He turned 70 on Sunday. And it just so happens that on this very day 35 years ago, the film Back to the Future was released. So which Huey Lewis track could I possibly play? I know, such a tease. Huey Lewis and the News. Thought I'd play you something that you don't hear as often from Huey. From the 1984 album Sports, that was If This Is It. And happy birthday, Huey, for Sunday. Simon Braddock in Stevenage says, Gary, I work for Hertfordshire County Council. I have a 13-year-old daughter, Lauren, who I love dearly. I'm lucky to have a couple of truly amazing friends in Sue and Paul. Selecting my favourite songs of the 80s involved a very large spreadsheet and a complex scoring system. I spent the first half of the decade in South Africa, so my musical influences at the time were based mainly on what was being imported and was mostly mainstream. On my return to the UK in January 85, all that changed.
My 80s.
Hi Gary, my name is Simon Braddock and these are my 80s. My first choice is Pearl in a Shell by Howard Jones. My parents were visiting the UK in 84 and my mum heard him on the radio and thought I might like his music. Humans Live had just been released, so she bought it for me on vinyl, which I still have. I could actually have been the first person in South Africa to have had the album. It's always been a bit special to me for that reason, but this track and the lyrics are super special. My second choice is It's My Life by Talk Talk. I've always loved Talk Talk, and Mark Hollis's songwriting skills were off the chart. His songs still sound so good, and he is very sorely missed. This song has come to mean more to me over the years, but it was still a massive favourite in its day. My third choice is She Sells Sanctuary by The Cult. I remember being at college in Stevenage in 85 and walking back into class and saying how pleased and proud I was to have got the latest China Crisis album. One of my classmates told me in no uncertain terms to take it back and buy The Cult, Love. Something I certainly don't regret, as it's an album that has really stood the test of time, and this track is just brilliant. Although I did rebuy the China Crisis album later but didn't tell him. My ultimate 80s choice is Alphabet Street by Prince. I've always been a huge Prince fan and was lucky enough to see him several times. The first time was the Love Sexy tour at Wembley Arena, and I went with my sister. Prince was simply magnificent. I remember the first time I heard this track and was instantly hooked by the opening few bars. The sound is immediately recognisable as a Prince track, and as for the lyrics, well, just brilliantly Prince.
I'm going down to Alphabet Street. I'm gonna crown first girl that I meet. I'm gonna talk so sexy. She'll want me from my head to my feet. Yes, she will. I'm gonna drive my daddy's Thunderbird, a white red ride, 66, so glam, it's absurd. I'm gonna put her in the backseat and drive her to Tennessee. Tennessee, drive her. I'm just not in the mood. So if you don't mind, I would like to Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, Simon Braddock. What a good one. Nice My 80s. Alphabet Street from Prince and the Revolution, his all-time favourite. If you want to take the My 80s challenge, easy, says he, who refuses to do it himself because it's way too difficult. But if you'd like to do it, all you got to do is email me, gary.davies@bbc.co.uk.
Sounds of the 80s. The originals.
On This Week in 1990, Elton John was at number 1 on the British singles chart with the double A-side Sacrifice and Healing Hands. It would be his first number 1 single since 1976. But did you know, safely back in the 80s in 1989, both tracks were released as separate singles. Both made the top 20 in the States and both missed the top 40 here. I've said it before. No, I'm not going to go there. Healing Hands only reached 45 the first time round. Here it is.
I never dreamed I could cry so hard. That ain't like me. I could fly like a bird. Some days had a place where I could land. I could have sworn we were all locked in. Man, that's what you said. I never knew it could hurt so bad when the power of love is dead. But giving into the nighttime ain't no cure for the pain. You gotta wade into the water. You gotta learn to live again and reach out for a healing hand. Reach out for a healing hand. There's a light where the darkness is. Touch me now and let me see again. Rock me now in your gentle healing hands. I never knew love like poison that burned like a fire. All I ever wanted was a reason to drown in your eyes. I never knew sleep so restless, empty arms so cold. That's not the way it's supposed to be. It ain't the spell that I was sold. But giving into the nighttime ain't no cure for the pain. You gotta wade into the water. You gotta learn to live again and reach out for a healing hand. Reach out for a healing hand. There's a light where the darkness ends. Touch me now and let me see again. Rock me now in your gentle healing hand. Giving into the nighttime ain't no cure for the pain. You gotta wade into the water. You gotta learn to live again and reach out for a healing hand. Reach out for a healing hand. There's a light where the darkness ends. Touch me now and let me see again. Rock me now in your gentle healing hand. Reach out for a healing hand. There's a light where the darkness ends. Touch me now. Oh, let me see again. Rock me now in your gentle healing hand. Rock me now.
Elton John and Healing Hands, taken from Elton's 1989 album Sleeping with the Past. Okay, popcorn time. If you were thinking of a Saturday night at the movies on This Week in 1987, there's a strong chance it will have been to see the latest Stanley Kubrick film, Full Metal Jacket. Now, this next track was created to promote the film, and it reached number 2 in the charts, and it is just brilliant.
I love working for Uncle Sam. I love working for Uncle Sam. Let me know just who I am. Let me know just who I am. 1, 2, 3, 4, United States Marine Corps. 1, 2, 3, 4, United States Marine Corps. 1, 2, 3, 4, I love the Marine Corps. 1, 2, 3, 4, I love the Marine Corps. My Corps, my Corps, your Corps, your Corps, our Corps, our Corps, Marine Corps, Marine Corps. Good, good, good. Pick up the step a little bit. We're going a little bit too slow.
Talking that way, so listen closely.
Abigail Mead and Nigel Goulding, Full Metal Jacket, I Wanna Be Your Drill Instructor. How brilliant is that song? Taken from the movie Full Metal Jacket. And kept off the top spot, incidentally, by the Bee Gees with You Win Again. And let's stay at the movies. It's a double bill. Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, also known as Mad Max 3, was released on this week in 1985. Mel Gibson returned as Mad Max, exiled into the desert by the ruthless ruler of Bartertown, Aunt Entity, played by Tina Turner, whose hair doubled in size for the role. It was the 80s. She also did this.
Out of the ruins, out from the wreckage, can't make the same mistake this time. We are the children, the last generation. We are the ones is coming. All else are castles built in the air. And I wonder when we are ever gonna change. Living under the fear till nothing else remains. All the children say we don't need another hero. We don't need to know the way home. All we want is life beyond the Thunderdome. So what do we do in our lives? We leave only a mark. Will our story shine like a light, or end in the dark? Is it all or nothing? We don't need another hero. We don't need to know the way home. All we want is life beyond Thunderdome. All the children say we don't need another hero. We don't need another hero. We don't need to know the way home. All we want is life beyond Thunderdome.
Title track to Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, or Mad Max 3, Tina Turner, We Don't Need Another Hero. It went to number 3 in 85. Do you know, no Tina Turner single has ever climbed higher than number 3. And she did it 3 times. River Deep Mountain High in 1966, What's Love Got to Do With It in 1984, and that track. And now you're thinking, what? Surely the best made it to number 1? Nope. It went to number 5. Hi Gary, tomorrow will be my 51st birthday. Can I have a shout out please? I'm writing from Padova, Italy, and I listen every week with my wife Eleanor and daughter Anna. And that's from Enrico Babolin in Padova. Happy birthday to you, Enrico. Would you be so kind to give me a birthday shout out please? I'm John Redding and I turn 55 today. I'm an LGV lorry driver, so give a shout out to all the truckers out there who are helping to keep the nation going, especially all the ex-K&M Baden drivers. Stay safe, guys. Got to say hi to Elaine Douglas in East Kilbride. Karen Perkins says, I'm originally from Leicester. Moved to America a few years ago. Would love a shout out for my mum, Maureen Alley. Carol South says, I'd love a shout out because it was our 26th wedding anniversary yesterday and it's my birthday today. Celebrating at home in sunny Scarborough, Carol and Gus South. Can you give a shout out to my 11-year-old son, Charlie, says Andrew Green, who is on my side when we go karting and listen to you on BBC Sounds, but my younger wife wants to hear Ferton Cotton on Sounds of the 90s. This could end up in marriage counselling. No need. You can listen to both. Lisa Mitchie says, thanks for your wonderful shows. I had foot surgery on Thursday and I'm housebound once again. Fingers crossed for some decent weather. Love a shout out. You got one. Hope your foot gets better soon. Can you give a shout out to Thomas Turner from Grantham? He's 7 years old and he loves the 80s. And that's from Carl, a big 80s fan. David Gray says, give me a shout out for my 59th birthday tomorrow. He's in Rotherham. Sean Lockhart says, 2 special dates for us this week. Would be great to get a double mention. Firstly, it's our Sean and Tracy's 25th wedding anniversary. And secondly, it's our son Kieran's 18th birthday. There you go, double whammy. Now, we all loved a wedding in the 80s. They just got bigger and bigger. Bigger VIP guest lists, bigger hair, bigger dresses, bigger shoulder pads, bigger cakes, and bigger magazine deals. And by the end of the decade, bigger divorce settlements. Unless, of course, you are Ozzy and Sharon Osbourne, who celebrate their 38th wedding anniversary tomorrow. From the 1983 album of the same name, here's Ozzy with Bark at the Moon.
The moon.
Ozzy Osbourne, Bark at the Moon, and happy anniversary for tomorrow to Ozzy and Sharon Osbourne. Now, as you know, each week this year I'm rewinding to see who made their chart debut exactly 40 years ago. And it was a great year for new artists who would go on to become chart regulars for many years to come. It was also a year with its fair share of one-hit wonders, like Stacey Lattisaw, who went to number 3 with this and never troubled the charts ever again. But what a song! Jump to the beat.
The price you pay was dear.
Stacey Lattisaw and Jump to the Beat. And now it is time to smooch to the beat.
The Sloppy Bit with Gary Davies.
Gary, could I have a shout out for my husband Alex Morgan, who turned 40 this week. Tell him I love him lots. That's from Emma. Alison Prowl says, Gary, never asked for a dedication before, even though we listen every week. My amazing partner Andrew and I had our first date on the 4th of July 2009, and it would be wonderful if you could tell him how much I love him. He makes my life complete. Please, can you give a shout out to my wife Tracy? She's a real inspirational person, and I'm amazed at what she can achieve, and I love her, says Gary Lawless. I should have been getting married tomorrow, but it's been postponed until the 10th of July next year. I was hoping to dedicate a song to my fiancée Paula to let her know that I love her, and that even though this is not the weekend we were both expecting it to be, it will be an even better wedding and celebration next year. And that's from Chris Hind. Julia Halsey says, give a shout out to my partner Wayne and thank him for everything he does for us all. We love him. Kevin lives in Cyprus with his wife Jill. Says on Sunday it's our 7th wedding anniversary. A mention would be great. That's Kev Jeffrey. Would like a sloppy bit mention for my fantastic wife Debbie. It's our 27th wedding anniversary today. She's been my rock whilst I've been working in the operating theatres and the odd ICU shift during this difficult time. And that's from Kevin Strachan. David Davis said, I met the love of my life, Aileen Davis, in Qatar in 2015. And we were married in 2018 in the Philippines. I grew up in the 80s, serving in Her Majesty's forces, and the music kept me sane in the most trying of times. We have a beautiful daughter, Serena Mary, who's 8 months old, who I am yet to hold. Send out my love via the airways, as she'll be listening to your show via the internet. Kevin Williamson said, can I have a shout out for my wife Alison? As it's our 30th wedding anniversary on Sunday. We met on a school holiday to Santa Ponza 36 years ago and have been together ever since. As a famous man once said, I was standing, she was there. Two worlds collided and they could never tear us apart. Wee bit of poetic license there. It'd be great if you could play the proper In Excess version, please. Tell Alison that I love her very much and can't wait to celebrate properly when this is all over. And as a wee cheeky aside, could you also say a happy birthday to our daughter Vari, who will be 21 next Friday. She counts the 80s as her go-to music, probably because that's what we brainwashed her with.
Don't ask me what you know is true. Don't have to tell you I love your precious heart. I was standing, you were there. Two worlds collided, and they could never tear us apart. We could live for 1,000 years, but if I hurt you, I make wine from your tears. I told you that we could fly, 'cause we all have wings, but some of us don't know why.
In Excess and the brilliant Never Tear Us Apart. So tomorrow is the 4th of July, also known as American Independence Day, a real big day for our stateside listeners, and I know many people listen to sounds of the 80s in the United States. So especially for you, here's Redbox.
TDA to contemplate this audio-visual opiate.
100 years from now.
Title fights and human rights for satellites, you parasites. Now I gotta tell you that I've been down so low that I hit the ground.
Let's hear it from the heart of America.
In America, USA. Where's the peace and understanding? Go drum, go that sound of sound. All this peace and understanding. Go drum, go dance round and round in America. Pocket full of posies and cheap scented roses.
Every house should have its hat on.
In and out and round and round, up and down and lost and found. Magazines and gasoline, made in Taiwan, Western Sea. Where's the peace and understanding? Go drum, go dance, sound on sound. All this peace and understanding. Go drum, go dance round and round in America. In America. Where's the peace and understanding? Go drum, go dance, sound on sound. All this peace and understanding. Go drum, go dance round and round. Where's the peace and understanding? Go drum, go dance, sound on sound.
All this peace and understanding. Go drum, go dance round and round. America.
Where's the peace and understanding? Go drum, go dance, sound on sound. All this peace and understanding. Go drum, go dance round and round. Where's the peace and understanding?
Redbox for America, and happy Independence Day to you for tomorrow.
All this peace and understanding.
And now, it's the happy sad time. Sad because it's nearly the end of the show. Happy because we have a happy ending. Chosen by David Salter, the truck driver from Cornwall. He wanted this from the Kinks.
They put a parking lot on a piece of land where the supermarket used to stand. Before that they put up a bowling alley on the site that used to be the local pally. That's where the big band used to come and play. My sister went there on a Saturday. Come dancing, all her boyfriends used to come and call. Why not come dancing? It's only natural. Another Saturday, another date. She would be ready, but she'd always make him wait. In the hallway, in anticipation. He didn't know the night would end up in frustration. He'd end up blowing all his wages for the week, or for a cuddle and a peck on the cheek. Come dancing, that's how they did it when I was just a kid. my window I could see them in the moonlight, two silhouettes saying goodnight by the garden gate. The day they knocked down the pally, my sister stood and cried. The day they knocked down the pally, while my childhood died, just died. Car park where the pally used to stand. My sister's married and she lives on an estate. Her daughters go out, now it's her turn to wait. She knows they get away with things she never could, but if I asked her, I wonder if she would. Come dancing, come on sister, have yourself a ball. Don't be afraid to come dancing, it's only natural. The big band used to play.
The Kinks and Come Dancing, and that's your lot. Huge thanks to birthday boy Vince Clarke and Simon Braddock for being this week's My 80s Stars. Thank you to Johnny California, Steve Softly, Paul Thomas and Lizzie Turnbull. Sounds of the 80s with Gary Davies is a listen production for BBC Radio 2. Sounds of the 90s with Fern coming up next. Have a great week, and I'll see you back here next Friday for our Live Aid special. This is Radio 2 on the BBC Sounds app, on your smart speaker, and on 88 to 91 FM.
BBC News at 11 o'clock. This is Anthony Birchley. Boris Johnson has hailed tomorrow's easing of the lockdown rules in England as